Howdy, Ags. Welcome to the tailgate, home of Aggie Football. Coach, we got the delivery man. What's up, Corey?
Hey, buddy.
Today's episode is brought to you by, no surprise here, Frida Homes. Man Dreams, custom home builders with over 15 years of experience in Brazos Valley. If you're looking for someone that cares about you and the details you care about, contact Frida Homes. Visit them on Instagram at Frida.Homes or give Justin a call at 979-450-4466. When you call, just remember, everyone loves their Frida Homes.
Frida Homes.
Don't forget to email us at agstailgate@gmail.com. Visit us on YouTube. Subscribe. If you email us, send us some questions. Let us know what you want to talk about. If you got a topic you want to hear about, let us know. You got questions from the tailgate, let us know. Man, a lot going on over the last couple months. You know, we've been on and off the pod, you know, with some longer periods. Unfortunately, as you can see here, we're no longer in the same room, Corey. Unfortunately, you know, I miss you already, buddy.
Yeah, bud. I miss you too.
But I was forced to get the move back to DFW, so here I am, back doing this thing apart with our new little format here. Hopefully now we can get back to doing our weekly from here on out. That's gonna be the goal, and see how this works out. What do you think?
Sounds good to me, man. Maybe do it twice a week if it works out.
Yeah. There was a Stroud sighting. Old boy said that maybe here with this new setup, maybe he can get involved from time to time. So we may get the old Stroud Izzy back on the pod.
That's good. Need him on here.
Corey, I want to start off just something a little bit on the sad side. Really more than just about football here today. Coach Terry Price passes away, age of 55. This past Friday, man. You know, I'll tell you this, just a guy that, incredible Aggie. He was a great coach, he was a great recruiter, he was all those things, but more than that, a great dude. Clearly his players loved him. You know, he was just a great inspiration to the Aggie community. Played for the Aggies from 86 to 89, and then he's been coaching for the Aggies since Sumlin brought him back. Overall, 20 some odd years in the SEC, I believe 12 with Texas A&M as a defensive line coach. The reaction from his former players just tells you everything you need to know, not to mention the former coaches he's worked with. The dude was a solid guy. Feel bad for his family and prayers out to them. But all in all, man, a guy that's definitely going to be missed, not only as a coach, but as a person around these kids that always need mentors.
Right. I agree with you.
Hard to move on from that, obviously, but we're going to do it. And first, just piece of news here. SEC Media Day is coming up, July 17th to 20th in Nashville, Tennessee. Jimbo speaks on the first day, so if you're interested in that conversation, get to see what he's got to say. The 17th, he's the last coach on the 17th. Right? Starting next week, as I said earlier, hopefully we're going to start going through some of the over-under win totals for all the SEC teams leading up into the season, obviously getting closer to the season. Obviously, we'll finish off with a full discussion of the Aggie schedule for 23 and the game, go game by game on that evaluation, as well as far as some win-loss predictions. Of course, since we were last on, though, big news on the schedule reveal for 2024.
Right.
I thought, let's just go through the specifics of it, non-conference, what that schedule looks like. It's going to be Bowling Green, McNeese, New Mexico State, and Notre Dame in the non-conference. Dates haven't been set on all these games, but we know who the opponents are.
Notre Dame, is that a home game?
Yes. Notre Dame a home
Nice.
game. Great to bring that program over into Cobb Field to have a ball game in 24 as we're starting to expand into that new SEC. Great year to be an Aggie fan in Cobb Field with the teams that are coming to see us. Specifically, other teams playing at where we're considered home. Arkansas, even though it's in Jerry World, so technically we lose a little bit of a home game there. But LSU, Missouri, and Texas. So great year in Aggie Land in the sense you get LSU, Texas, and Notre Dame at home. If you're a season ticket holder, man, you better make sure you got your tickets paid up because that is big time football at Kyle Field. Don't you think, Corey?
Yeah, it is. Man, those will be some expensive tickets.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. Away, Auburn, Florida, Mississippi State, and South Carolina. Overall, the SEC schedule, man, I'm gonna tell you. Let me start with this. Super excited about getting the rivalry back with Texas. I fully believe that's going to be a Thanksgiving weekend matchup. I can't imagine how insane that game is going to be at Kyle Field for the first time in 12 years, right? I mean, the state of Texas is going to be crazy leading up to that ball game. Having said
They're
that,
crazy over the baseball games.
They do. Having said that, look, 2023 is important, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
2023 is important, super important. And why is that? It's very important because what happens in 23 is going to have a big effect on how big that game is, right? What happens if the Aggies go 10 wins? Well, that's going to bring super excitement into that next season in 24. Recruiting is going to be through the roof, yada, yada, yada. Everything's going to be looking beautifully perfect going into that. What happens if it's another 5-win season? That's a whole different story, right? Now you're talking, is Jimbo still around? You know?
Are the players still around?
Are the players still here? Is there what's going on in the transfer portal? What happened with the defense? Did it improve? What's going to happen in recruiting? Everything is going to be affected there, right? And so, exciting 24, but hold on, right? Hold on, because we got some business to take care
A lot of business.
With regards to the schedule, Corey, though, when I looked at it, and I told you this, best schedule as far as ability to go win an SEC championship. Best schedule
Absolutely.
the Aggies will ever have. Period.
But yeah, they don't play Alabama. They don't play Georgia. I mean, those are the big dogs, right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Alabama and Georgia. Well, Tennessee, who's an up-and-comer, right? They're not on the schedule either.
Right.
But not only that, think about the fact of who some of these opponents are and where they're at today. Florida, everybody sees them as pointing downwards, right?
Right.
Auburn is going to be just in the second year under Hugh Freeze. He's got to rebuild that roster. Now he's shown that he can have success in the SEC. Maybe by then he's already starting that process. But I'd rather have him early in that year than otherwise, right? I mean, so
Right.
I'm not. They're not going to have the same level of talent as the Aggies are going into 24. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, it's going to take Freeze a couple of years.
And you've got teams that are going to be coming off of replacing quarterbacks. South Carolina replacing Rattler, right? Arkansas replacing a 4-year start, right? So Mississippi State replacing their 4-year starter.
Rogers,
These programs are going to be, you would think, taking a little bit of a step back after losing such a big-time leader and such a big-time producer for that program at quarterback, right? All that to say is you're probably not going to get a better opportunity to make an SEC championship schedule-wise. Add to that the fact of as long as things go well enough for the Aggies in 23, and you don't lose a bunch of guys to the transfer portal. You're looking at Connor as a junior at quarterback. You're looking at receivers with Stewart, Thomas, the tight ends.
Tight end.
Right? Like the talent around them. Unbelievable. All of a sudden you go from this year, an unproven group of tailbacks, a group that's already been on the field for an entire season that you feel real comfortable with, right?
Right.
Owens in his second season, Amari Daniels, right? Le'Veon Moss. Those guys are coming back in their third seasons, right? So, and fourth for Daniels, right? Daniels being his fourth season. The offensive line, guys like Zoom, Fothery, Foster, those are guys who will all be fourth-year guys. Dewberry, Nabu, those are third-year guys. A lot of experience on the offensive line. You feel real good about that offense. Where everybody is, how much time they've been in the program, the age. You put that together. How about defensive? Where's defense going to stand, right? D-line wise, that number one recruiting class that we talked about with Nolan, with Stewart, Shamar Stewart, right? With Silla, with Overton, with, just name them, one after another. White.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys are all going to be in their third year.
This has been like the project since the class got recruited, was thinking almost 3 years down the road. It wasn't the next year or the year after. It was 2024 was our year.
And here's the thing, the one thing I will disagree with you there is that Jimbo's been recruiting those classes since 2019. He should have already had the year, right? 21 should have been the year, 22 should have been the year, 23 has got to be the year. Because if 23 still goes south like 22, you can forget all about it. Half these kids are going to be gone. The coaches might be gone. Everybody may be gone, right?
That's true. It's very true.
But if you look at what it has potential to be, that could be your best opportunity as long as you're in the SEC to get into the SEC championship. That's what it just all lines up. Having said that, 23. This team has to have a huge turnaround in 23. And I am not of the mindset, as I've just said, next year's our year. You know me.
Right.
Look, Jimbo's had all the time in the world to do what he's doing and to build a program and to bring in talent and bring in the coaches and everything else. If that dude can't get wins this year, what do you want to do?
Get rid of him.
Sure.
If he doesn't, Jimbo, well, you think if he wins, I'd keep him. But if he doesn't win, you got to go. How many wins does he have to keep him around?
Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the thing, right? I mean, and it's not just Fisher. Look, Fisher's got to perform. No questions about it. He's got to be a lot better leader for the entirety of the program in 2023. We can't have all the on-field BS. We can't have all the off-field BS. Not with this group of kids, not in 23, not with this level of talent. Durkin's got to be better, right?
It's got to be a lot better.
That defense gave up rushing yards to anybody who wanted to run the football.
Yes.
They can't do that in 23. You can't do that with the group of defensive linemen that you have on this roster. You cannot do that. Petrino needs to obviously come in and be a big part, right?
That's true.
Offense is going to have to be more explosive. They've got to be able to score more than 22 points a game. That's all going to be on Petrino 100%. Ultimately, not only the roster, because of the transfer portal, but the 2024 recruiting class is going to be impacted, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's every year, yeah.
And those guys are on a pretty good run lately. Those guys, Jimbo, the program, the staff, they've had some recruits lately, some nice four-star guys, some linebackers, safety, just they're doing a great job. Right now the class stands at 12, but there's going to be some of these guys, a wide receiver that signed just recently big time. There's going to be some of these guys that are going to be wait and see just a little bit until they see the product on the field before they say, yep, let's go sign up. right?
Absolutely.
Here's my prediction, Corey. All right? You tell me what you think about this. If the Aggies win 10 regular season games in 2023, that 2024 class will be a top 7 class. No, I don't have that for a second.
Okay.
I may go as high, I may actually go top 5. Top 5.
Right.
Jimbo's that good of a recruiter, though. Always has been.
Exactly. Recruiting, I don't think, has ever been really the question.
If that season ends up between 8 and 10 wins, 8 or 9, right around there, it's probably still a top 20 class.
Say, I mean, how many games did we win last year?
5.
What was our class ranking recruiting?
22.
Okay. So yeah, I think we win 8 or 9 games. We're top 15, close to top 10.
I think at 8 or 9 games, 7, 8, 9 games, you probably still got a group of folks that are saying, those players that are saying, well, they didn't fully turn it around. And maybe it depends on how those 7, 8, 9 wins come about. But I don't think you're going to get a top 10 class if that's the case. I think your best case scenario is maybe just outside the top 10, somewhere in that 10 to 20 range.
Gotcha.
That's my prediction. If you end up like last year, with less than 7, right? I think this class falls outside of the top 25. And I think it happens because those players are going to lose faith in the fact that Jimbo Fisher can do it at all.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm not even worried about the recruiting so much as keeping the players we have now. I'm afraid they'd transfer out if we have another bad season.
Look, if you're
guys you were just naming earlier.
Think about the fact that if you are Evan Stewart, right? You're Evan Stewart, where everybody knows that you're that good of a ball player, right? Exactly. People believe he's good. He's got the talent to be a number 1 wide receiver draft pick to go to the NFL, a guy that's picked in the first round. Those guys don't get picked in the first round when you have, 700 yards in receiving. They don't.
Yeah, I mean, what about Walter Nolan? They've already talked about him leaving in the past after this year. They talked about schools trying to come get him.
And look what happened when this team did not produce to the level that it should have to guys like DeMarvin Leal, who me and you thought, talent-wise, that dude is a monster, right? That dude
he was awesome.
Is a beast. But at the end of the day, if there is no team production, you still get left out in the cold when it comes to comparing to the top level talent. That's just the way it is, right?
Yep.
So you're right. Eventually, unless the production shows, unless you're in the big time games at the end of the year that are nationally relevant and important for championship reasons, you're going to lose some of these guys. It's just going to happen.
Well, just look at what Georgia and Alabama and those guys do. Their players come in, they're in their top ranked classes, and they produce, and then they get drafted high. I mean, look at the draft. I mean, they're getting, 20-something guys drafted by Georgia or something stupid, Yeah. Alabama. Aggies had, 3 guys get drafted last year?
And what's impressive about that is also the fact that, everybody talks about, you got so many top-end picks with that number 1 class and whatever, so many top-end players, some of them are going to leave. Well, that may be true, except for the fact that, look at Alabama and Georgia. Because they win, the great majority of those players stick around until they're juniors.
Exactly.
If they're not playing sometimes when they're juniors, then maybe they consider, hey, let's go somewhere as a senior or whatever. Or if they're way down the depth chart, at that point they go. But they'll stick around, wait, because they know if they can get on the field as a junior, they're going to have a very good chance of being drafted and drafted high at, to go to play in the NFL, which is their ultimate goal, right? It's the only goal.
Exactly.
Winning will fix everything, but you got to go get it done. And
exactly.
You don't have time.
I mean, we have the talent. I don't think the question is not the talent.
No.
The question is the coaching.
No, 100%. So with that in mind, as we look towards 2023, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that are going to be important for this team to have success. And the first thing I want to talk about is, what game do you think is the most important game for this team in 2023? There's a lot to choose from. There's a lot to choose from.
Yeah, there's a lot to choose from. I mean, it had to be something early. I mean, I'm trying to think of. I don't have the schedule in front of me. I'm trying to think. Do you have the schedule in front of you?
Not specifically, but let's say early. I think
Miami's going to be early, isn't it?
Week two in Coral Gables, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big one right there, just to see what we're made of. I mean, I don't think first game of the season. I mean, I think that's going to be somewhat important if we lay an egg and we don't look strong. But that Miami game, you know, they're not the same Miami as the '90s or the '80s, but they're still Miami. They have talent, and
for some reason, people love them. So for some reason, people give him more credit than they probably deserve after last year.
That quarterback that laid an egg last year, Van Dyke or whatever, I mean, he's back. I mean, he can't be as bad as he was last year. He was supposed to be a top 5 pick last year, coming out of the draft.
Just like the Aggies, they replaced an offensive coordinator, right? And believe that change is going to have a big, significant change in the production by Van Dyke. So Miami,
so that's what we're hoping with Connor.
For sure. So you think Miami? And I
like
that.
It's something early. I mean, we're gonna find out pretty early in the season, because last year, remember the Miami game last year? It wasn't nothing exciting. Was that coming after the Appalachian State game?
Yeah, right after we lost to App State.
Everybody was down. We beat Miami, okay. Then we played a couple close games, still lost here and there, but yeah, I mean, it starts right at the beginning of the season. We're gonna find out what this offense is like, what the defense is like in the first. Not so much the first game, but that Miami game is what we'll find out.
The one thing I will say, if you lose that Miami game, that tells you everything you need to know, right?
Exactly.
100%, that tells you everything you need to know. You might as well. You lose to Miami, you might as well fire Jimbo then and let's get on with it, right?
Yeah, let's retool. Let's start the whole thing over.
Another game, and I think that's a good argument with Miami. Soon after you got Auburn. Once again, it's one of those situations like if you lose the game, it's always important, right? You lose to Auburn and Hugh Freeze's first year when that roster is what it is. Pack it up, man. Pack it up, right?
I mean, we lost that Auburn team last year when they were awful. Embarrassing.
You could also go Arkansas, which every year is so big and so close and tight and everything else. I think that could be one of them. Obviously, the Bama Tennessee back to back, just because if you win those games, I mean, how big is that? 2 of the best teams in the country. South Carolina coming after last year, there's something to be said there. You could always go LSU at the end of the season, right? Huge.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the biggest game on this schedule is Ole Miss.
Why Ole Miss?
I think it's Ole Miss, and here's why. One, they beat us 3 out of the last 5. The last 2.
It seems like we never beat them.
And the last 2 for sure, or maybe the last 2. And to me, that is always a swing game for this team, right? To me, if you lost to Miami, if you lost to Auburn, you're not going to beat Ole Miss anyway.
You're not going to beat too many people. You lose to Miami and
right.
Auburn.
So if you get to that point in the season, and maybe you do lose to Alabama, you lose to Tennessee, maybe you lose to both or one or the other, Ole Miss is going to be the difference between setting up a huge matchup against LSU at the end with maybe some potential for 10 wins type of situation versus you're going to go 7-5. To me, that's Ole Miss. And to me, there's no in between. You don't lose to Ole Miss. I don't think you lose to Ole Miss and go 9 wins. I don't. I think if you lose to Ole Miss, you're probably a 7-win team. And it's weird that I say that, right? Because a win against Ole Miss is just one more win. But I think a win against Ole Miss, that means you're probably close to a 10-win team, if not a 10-win team. I actually believe that. I think that game is so important for this team because of two things. One, the way they play offense is going to test that defense. Can they stop the run? Can they do the things necessary to hold that offense to a reasonable amount of points? They're going to test us, and then on the other side, that means offensively, we're going to have to be good enough to actually score points on their mediocre defense, right? We weren't good enough to do it last year, and we weren't good enough to stop the run last year against them either. They're going to test our weakest points.
I think our offense is definitely going to be better this year. They've got to be. You know, when I say better, I mean I'm thinking they're going to average over 30-something points a game. I'm thinking close to 35.
Yeah.
Because I mean, people can say what they want, but if you don't average 35 points a game, and you can give up 21. Look at last year. We gave up 21 points a game, and we still had the fifth, only won 5 games. That's awful. If you score 35, we're gonna beat some people pretty bad. So that's it. That's it. Everything works out. Petrino does what I think he's going to do. We got the wide receivers. We have the skills. I mean, we got a talented team.
I got one for you here a little bit. All right.
But
so most important game. What do you think? You said Miami early. You gonna stick with that one?
yeah, early game. I want to.
Okay.
I think every game is important, to be honest, this year.
It's one of those.
I'm talking.
Yeah.
The very first game, you play a no-name team, you blow them out. You come to Miami, you play Miami. You know, go there and beat the hell out of them, and just keep going. And learn every week from different mistakes, but make changes. The thing I haven't seen them do is make changes.
Yeah, adapt, right?
Exactly. It's like, oh man, we can't have a 3-man line. Well, let's not do it again next week. Well, shit, we did last year. Our offensive line can't pass block long enough to, we lost 3 quarterbacks somehow. Well, let's try it again. No, you don't keep trying it. You learn from your mistakes.
All right, so I agree with you, and I think you do find out pretty early where that stands. Moving to the next sort of question here.
Okay.
Most important offensive position.
Well, that's easy. It's offensive line. I mean, if our offensive line plays as we did last year, we're going to be around that 500 mark all year.
They were horrible.
We might win a game or two we're not supposed to, but we're going to lose some games we're not supposed to either.
Yeah, they were absolutely the worst unit on the entire team. That includes linebacker play, which was
one of the worst in the nation.
Yeah, which was like kindergarten play.
Yeah.
Offensive line, it's got to be it. This is a little interesting. Just to see, I'm gonna throw something else out here. What if I told you another one could possibly be the wide receiver group, because they're so good that they literally make up for a crappy offensive line, kind of like they did against LSU last year, where Connor's just throwing it up to them and they're just making these ridiculously monster plays.
Well, that's kind of depending on luck instead of skill. So I'm going to go hopefully that the guys are better and that the coaching's better, and then we don't have to depend on that luck.
Look,
we have to do that, and if the offensive line's playing like that, and we're depending on our wide receivers to be that good, that means Connor's going to be in this back lot.
No, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I do think it's offensive line, and if they're good, man, that offense is going to scream. That's what I think. How about defensive position? What's the most important?
I think the D-line's the most important. I think they need to dominate games. I mean, a lot of people will say linebackers or secondary, but I think the D-line, if they dominate like we think they can dominate, because they didn't do that last year. They didn't dominate games.
It's hard to dominate. It's hard to dominate games when you got three of them out there and you got one of them dropping into coverage, right?
It's stupid. It's awful.
I agree with you.
It drove me nuts.
I agree with you, except I'm going to go even more specific. I think it's the defensive ends.
Getting pressure on the quarterback, huh?
Yeah, and Dirk and sending, right? Having them on the field and sending,
right.
And letting them go. and let him go play. And I do. If
It
that,
seems like he overthinks everything. Durkin's overthinking. I mean, you got the most talented guys right there in your D line. Let them go play. Don't sit there and drop them in coverage. That's not something they do. They're not used to that.
yeah, no, I fully agree.
You know?
I fully agree. That's my. I think if that group right there explodes, this defense is going to be. I mean, it's scary, scary.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, most important offensive player, not player position, but actual player, one player.
In my eyes, it's the quarterback. I mean, I think Connor, if he's our starter, which I think he is, I think he has to play with a chip on his shoulder. He needs to play. He needs to show some attitude. You know,
Yeah.
get fired up, get out there. You know, sling that ball around, get the guys. You know, take some chances. He's probably gonna throw some picks here and there, which is it's all right if he's taking the right chances. He's making the right reads. You know, I like to see him get on the offensive line's ass if they're not making blocks. I didn't see that last year.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see him be a leader. If that makes sense. That's what we're expecting him to be the leader. You know, because I think Anais is very important because he's another leader. I think that can get in people's face if he's shown he can do it. But I think right now the most important player to me is Connor.
I like the pick, and look, I think if you talk to 90% of people, they probably say the quarterback on pretty much any team you ask that question about. I'm gonna go another way. And actually, I'm gonna mention. To me, it's one of two players. One is Foster,
Okay.
the center, or in reality, whoever plays center. I'm not sure it's gonna be Foster. He's got to be healthy, which he never had.
Right.
But whoever plays that center position, I think, is going to be a huge key for this offense as a whole, and a big determinant on whether this offensive line is any good, and a big determinant of whether this offense is that next level that we're talking about. Right?
Right.
That's, to me, I think that's a huge one. And because I don't know that Connor needs to be great if the offensive line is great. That's kind of my thought process. The other one I'm going to say is Moose. And the reason I'm going to say Moose is because, to me, Jimbo and Petrino are going to give Stewart his reps. Anias is going to get his reps. They've already talked about how Thomas is going to be a part of this. The guy that has gotten left out in the cold before is Moose. I'm not sure that Petrino is dumb enough to do that. I don't think he's as retarded as Jimbo is in that sense. So I expect Moose to be on the field. But if he has a big year, it tells me that Petrino is distributing the ball, right? That's
Right.
just sort of why I come down to that, to Moose. How about defensively, most important player?
To me, I'm going to take Cooper. I'm going to take my linebacker. I think he's the best one we have. And our linebacker, they're very thin. But the guy, I mean, he's shown talent. He's got talent. He can cover backs out of the backfield. He's got speed. I just want to see him be more aggressive, if that makes sense. Get in the backfield, stop the run, plug holes. Show us that you learned something over the years instead of just, being out of position all the time.
100%. I do think Cooper is a great choice. I love it. That's probably who I would go with. Maybe just to be different. How about that second cornerback? That's on the other side of Chappelle, whether it's Grimes, Harmon, McCall, whoever ends up taking the majority of the reps over there on that other side, away from Chappelle, he's obviously going to have to play well. So I think he's big. But
I'll tell you what. If our secondary didn't have a shit ton of interceptions this year, which they hardly ever do, it's their own damn fault. It's the coaching's fault because we have so much talent on that defensive line. We should be getting pressure every play. I don't care who's out there. I mean, as long as you're not running a 3-man front, we should get pressure with a 4-man front. They're going to have to keep 7, 8 guys in to block our 4 guys.
And that's one thing I was
secondary. What's that?
No, I was going to agree with that, because that's why I sort of said it as a secondary, because, and I also think because of that defensive line, you do have safety help to help that second corner, and things like that. But you're absolutely correct.
Because we shouldn't have to run too many stunts. We shouldn't have to blitz too much. We should just be able to line up. They should know what's coming and let them react. I think Durkin's out thinking himself. Because we have a bunch of NFL talent on that defense, especially that line.
Yep.
Line them up. I mean, Jackson is a beast. That guy,
That's who I'm going right there. McKinley Jackson.
Yeah. McKinley Jackson, I mean, he's a leader. I mean, that guy's a leader. I mean, he's on the field. He's all over the place. And God, if he was a little bit smaller, I'd almost put him at linebacker because he's all over the damn field.
The reason I'm going to go with McKinley Jackson is because we saw it last year, right? When he's healthy,
yeah.
This defense is better. He's such a presence in the middle of that defense, right?
Yeah.
And to me, he makes that big of a difference. The only way he's not on the field is if he's not healthy, and I think that does detract. I think it's McKinley Jackson. That's who I'm going to go with.
That's a good one. I like him. He's one of my favorite players, if not my favorite.
How about a surprise performer for this offense? What do you think about that? Somebody that's maybe a little bit under the radar, nobody really expects huge things from, but man, he's going to come out and show out.
I'll tell you, his second year, he was highly recruited. I'm going to say Johnson at tight end. Because, I don't even know if he's going to get any reps because he didn't get any last year. But he's a big guy, big body. If we're going to move the ball down the field and the middle of the field's going to be open, like I think it will, because Green can stretch the field. But Johnson, I think you need that guy, the in-between guy, that's going to catch your 5-10 yard passes. That's right around the red zone. I think he's going to be a big red zone target.
I'd love to see him on the field a lot more for sure.
Yeah, I would too. But I don't know if they're seeing something we're not. Maybe the coaching staff is seeing something like, hey, the guy's not blocking. He's not, getting off blocks. He's getting, he's not getting away from defenders.
Yeah, you would think even with that big body, even without much separation, you could give him a chance to catch the ball sometimes.
It doesn't take much when you're that big. It's like a basketball move, like posting up. If you learn how to post up, you can get the ball.
Hey, you're a basketball guy.
I know. I'm a badass.
You definitely didn't post up though. You were out there shooting raining threes, baby.
Dude, I'm money. Didn't matter where I was on the court. I was open.
I'll give you another one, and maybe you can tell me this wouldn't be a surprise. Amari Daniels. He's right now. I think most people have him as their starting quarterback or running back at the beginning of the year. Is that a surprise?
No, I was gonna go with him or Moss or somebody out of the one of the running backs out of the backfield, but I was like, it's not gonna be a surprise to me. If that offensive line plays well, the running backs play really well.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna be surprised if those guys do well. I'll be surprised if somebody if Thomas has a big year. I won't be surprised. It's just he's I think our fourth best wide receiver. I'd be that would surprise me. If Johnson got playing time, that would be a surprise.
I'll give you one under the radar guy, Strickland as a center. If obviously you get a situation with Foster or he's hurt, like he has been, this is a guy that I think had a pretty good spring. He may be a guy that comes in there and gives you some solid hands on the offensive line.
Right.
How about a surprise guy on defense?
Surprise guy on defense?
Man, I think there's a ton of these guys because there's so many great bodies. Right?
Yeah, I'm thinking safeties right now. I'm thinking what's the guy's? Is it Matthews last year that we were?
Matthews, Kerr.
I think it was Matthews. I don't know. It was somebody. He played sparingly, but when he played well. Can't remember. I think it was number 31. I think it was Matthews. I can't remember.
No, I think either one of those two guys is a good one. I wouldn't be surprised if the freshman Brooks got on the field. I really like his athleticism and things that he brings to the football field.
There's so many good defensive line players. They just rotate them in and out. It's going to be hard to be a surprise because they're going to be so much. They got a lot of playing time last year. And
if Harmon can stay healthy, I think he'll surprise because I think he'll get more playing time than people expect.
Huh.
But he has to be healthy, and he never has been. A guy that I liked what I saw from last year that's not getting a ton of Martrell Harris, especially as a rush, more of a rush linebacker than anything else.
Right.
And then, if Russell's not playing very well, maybe York gets on the field there, linebacker as well, a freshman. You'd rather not have to go freshman, obviously, but if you have to, you have to. The guy I'm going to go with is, and you've heard me say this before, is Silla, Malik Silla.
There you go.
I think he's the most explosive, defensive end. Come off
You
the
think he's
ball.
going to start?
No,
I don't think he's going to start either.
I don't think he's going to start, but I think he's got an opportunity to be sort of a rush specialist on pass downs where they bring him in on third downs and passing downs, and the guy can just come off the ball and go get the quarterback. He has that sort of athleticism. I'm impressed with his get off, and I hope they give him the chance. All right. Biggest factor to get a 10-win regular season.
Coaching. I mean, that's easy. It's coaching. If you don't screw it up, all this talent.
You want to narrow that down just a little bit?
Well, I mean, if Jimbo and Petrino don't get into it, and Jimbo lets Petrino call his game, we might not agree with it all the time. I'm sure Jimbo won't. He's going to have to let these coaches do their thing. I mean, kind of like the offensive line coaching. Is the offensive line, the talent's there. I mean, you look at the guys they recruited. They were, 4-star guys. That's a talent. They've made more or less at Arkansas, with 3-star guys. It's coaching. It's all about coaching. If our coaches go in there and don't screw it up,
I'm gonna agree.
I'm talking like you don't sit there and the reason teams ran the ball against us last year is because they could. They weren't afraid of our offense at all. They weren't afraid of us getting the ball back and going 70 yards. They were like, man, we'll run the ball. If they stop us 3 and out, we'll run the ball 4 times. We don't care. We can give the ball to them on the 30-yard line. They're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's coaching. I actually think that the biggest factor to get to a 10-win regular season is DJ Durkin. I think Durkin and his play calling. It's Durkin sticking with the 4-man line and bringing pressure with that 4-man line, letting the defensive ends go play.
You talking about a 3-man line?
I'm talking about a 4-man line. I'm talking about Durkin playing with a 4-man line. We can get our defense will be good enough to get us 10 wins. The biggest reason we would get there is because that defense is so good.
Right.
So good because they just let those guys play. Because the talent up front, the talent on the back end, to me, is through the roof. They have to just let them go play.
Huh.
On the flip side, here's this one. Biggest factor for 6-loss regular season or more.
Offensive line sucks.
Yeah, I mean
they haven't gotten any better. The coaching's still the same. They're still calling the same plays as last year, and we'll be lucky to get 6 wins.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the Jimbo Petrino relationship goes up. I think if that goes sour, I think that gets you at 100% gets you less 6 wins or less, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you have to, I don't think that you have to really elaborate much on that. I don't think many people will disagree with that. In spite of all the talent.
Right.
All right, questions from the tailgate, brought to you by David Coffin PLLC. What is one thing you would most want Jimbo to say at SEC Media Days? SEC Media Days, we said later on the 17th of July. He's the last coach on the 17th of July to talk. What's the one thing you really want him to say?
Man, the one thing I want him to say, there's a lot of things I don't want him to say. I don't want him to say accountability again and all this other crap that he always says. I want him to say something different.
Execution.
I want him to, execution. I don't want to hear him say that again. I don't want to say that. I want him to say who our starting quarterback is. I want him to say what the offense is going to be like. Has the offensive line gotten better? I want him to hold himself accountable. I want people to ask Jimbo some hard questions where he has to think. You know,
How would you like this?
Jimbo, what's going to happen when Petrino calls a, says let's go for it on 4th and 1? Are you going to back him up, or are you going to be like, nah? You're going to let Petrino call a. Are you going to call the audibles? Who's going to call the audibles? Is it going to be Connor calling them? He's going to look to the sideline every 5 seconds.
How about this one? We have a new offensive line coach. I like that. I might want to hear him say that. How about I fired Durkin? No, maybe. I
don't think he'll say that immediate is, but no. Yeah, I like for him to say, "Hey, Durkin's on a short leash."
That's and I'm kidding. He's clearly not going to say that, but I wouldn't mind if he did say it.
Yeah.
This is the one thing I actually want to hear him say, because really and truly, anything he says in meeting days is going to mean nothing. Right? I mean, it's all just talk and whatever, and it's going to be Jimbo's, doing the same shit he always does. This is the one statement I'd love to hear him say.
What's that?
Moose is a starter.
Man. So you're saying we're going with what, what are we starting? 4 wides, a tight end, and 1 running back? Can we do that?
It can't be 4 wides, a tight end, and a running back now. Unless you're playing without a quarterback. I don't think that's what you need.
No, you can't do that. So you need a 4, no tight end, and a running
back? 3 wide, a tight end, and a running back.
So who are your 3 wide? Who's your 3 wide? Who are you leaving off? Thomas?
I don't care who you leave off. All I'm telling you is, if Moose is not a starter, there's a problem.
So wait. Well, tell me who you're leaving off. You got to leave one of those 4 off. You got to leave. I'm thinking Thomas is your 4th wide. Do you leave him off?
Yeah.
You leave Thomas off.
And that doesn't mean he's not. Look, that doesn't mean he's not getting into the rotation, getting reps, and all those things. Hopefully, Petrino's much better than Jimbo ever was about rotating wide receivers and getting people different reps, right? Because there are snaps to be had. Period.
Gotcha.
And plays to make. But the one thing I will say is this: if he says Moose is a starter, that to me, that's it. Because in my head, knowing how he's treated Moose over the last couple of years, that's the guy. That's the guy he's going to take off the field. You know what I mean? And if you watch that team last year, they were most successful when Moose was on the field and making plays. That's when we looked explosive. That's when we made plays down the field. That's when nobody made bigger plays than that dude. And I don't know how anybody has the right mind to keep him off. That's it.
Right.
Question number 2. The buzz around the facility is that things are different. People are more focused. There's more energy. Practices are more intense. All this stuff. What does it all mean?
I don't understand why it's more intense than what it has been in the past. Why wasn't it like this in the past, is my question. Why has it taken 5 or 6 years to get it like that? That's my question. I'm glad it is, but why wasn't it like this last year? Why wasn't it like that the year before? What's different? Just Petrino?
Apparently. Look, this is what it means. It means absolutely freaking nothing, because they say it every time there's one coach changes or whatever, a new guy comes in. They always say it, and it always means nothing. Shut the hell up, go to work, talk, especially every time it comes out of Jimbo's mouth or he opens his mouth, is cheap. It means nothing. Go to work.
When are they ever going to see? I never heard them come out and say intensity's really low this year.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of blah, Shit, I've never heard them say that.
No, nobody's ever said that. That's why.
I'm to come out and actually say it. Say, hey man, we're pretty down this year. It's we're not that good.
We're pretty much just walking through practice. It's cool. Yeah. I love it, man. It's nice and easy.
That's what Jimbo's probably going to say at media days. He'll probably be like, man, I really hope our offensive line is better. I'm not really sure they are, because we have the same coach. And our defense, I'm not really sure about them either, because we have the same coach.
He keeps using a 3-man line. I don't understand it.
We're not going to be much different than last year, guys.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. All right, C-Money.
All right, buddy.
Gigabags, AP, Corey, signing out from the tailgate.